Let me tell you something, squaddies. We are living through one of the most chaotic, unpredictable and downright fascinating eras in royal history. And the wildest part is that most people don't even realise it's happening. The British monarchy, this centuries-old, carefully polished machine, has stumbled into a moment it never prepared for. The generation once marketed as young, modern, fresh and full of promise is no longer the shining face of the institution. William and Kate, who were once described as the future of the monarchy, are now standing at the doorway of middle age, desperately trying to cling to the same excitement and sparkle they had in their 20s. But the world has changed. The atmosphere has shifted. New heirs, George, Charlotte and Louis, are slowly rising. And whether the palace wants to admit it or not, the global fascination is drifting toward those children, not their parents. You can feel it in the coverage, you can sense it in the PR, you can see it in the way the palace behaves, and that shift, this quiet transfer of public interest, has triggered a level of panic behind palace walls that explains everything we are currently witnessing. For nearly 20 years, the palace successfully sold William and Kate as the modern, refreshing brand of royalty, the ideal couple who would carry the monarchy into a new era. But now, the illusion is cracking like thin ice. It's not about age. 40 is not old by any standard. The real issue is stagnation. You can only repeat the same polished photo ops, the same predictable coat dresses, the same rehearsed speeches, and the same mysteriously timed disappearances before the public stops being dazzled. The palace knows the magic is wearing off. They can feel the torch slipping through their fingers, ready to be passed to the next generation, whether they like it or not. And once Prince George begins stepping into a more visible role, William and Kate instantly shift from the stars of the show to the supportive parents. And trust me, the monarchy hates nothing more than watching its once favoured figures being pushed into the background. And deep inside, William and Kate know exactly what's coming, and they fear it. Now here's where everything gets deliciously interesting. The palace can accept ageing, and they can accept shifting public attention, but what they cannot handle, what they absolutely cannot tolerate, is the fact that the two people they pushed out, smeared, bullied, and tried to silence have become bigger, louder, freer, richer, and more globally influential than anyone inside the institution. Harry and Meghan were supposed to disappear quietly into humiliation. They were supposed to collapse without palace support. They were supposed to fail financially, personally, and professionally. But instead, they became an international powerhouse brand. They became the couple the world actually wants to hear from. And that is the palace's worst nightmare. A royal couple who thrive without royal permission, without royal money, without royal handlers. Harry and Meghan became the most powerful symbols of modern royalty by simply living life on their own terms, and every time they rise, it reminds the palace of how badly their plan backfired. When that royal commentator went on live TV and chuckled about Harry becoming some irrelevant, balding, broke 50-year-old man, that wasn't a joke, it was a confession. They weren't cracking humour, they were reading straight from the palace's internal playbook. Because behind closed doors, the strategy has always been simple and cruel. Undermine Harry at every opportunity, minimise Meghan's presence, strip away their influence, diminish their visibility, and do everything possible to make the world forget they exist. That has been the fantasy. But the reality is the exact opposite. Every smear campaign blows up into global headlines. Every petty insult goes viral. Every meltdown from a royal expert turns into free PR. The palace wanted silence from Harry and Meghan, but what they actually created was a massive global microphone. The harder they attack, the more the world pays attention. It is the definition of a failed strategy. Let's take a moment to look at the monarchy's long, dusty pattern, an unspoken rule carved deep into its structure. Protect the heir, sacrifice the spare. This cycle has repeated itself for generations. It happened to Princess Margaret, who was sidelined while her sister reigned. It happened to Prince Andrew, who was used until he became inconvenient. And the institution assumed, confidently, arrogantly, that it would happen to Harry too. But then Meghan arrived, and everything changed. Meghan was not afraid of cameras, the press, or the palace. She was not raised to bow her head and stay silent. She was educated, articulate, confident, and unwilling to let a broken system crush her spirit. And that alone threw the monarchy into panic mode. Because a strong spare is a threat, a vocal spare is dangerous, and a free, independent spare. That is absolute chaos for an institution built on hierarchy and obedience. When Harry and Meghan walked out of the palace with nothing but their truth, they unknowingly shook the foundations of the entire monarchy. Let's talk about the strange obsession the British media has with Harry's finances. Every few weeks, the same commentators reappear like clockwork, predicting that Harry is on the verge of financial ruin, that Meghan's projects will flop, or that the couple will eventually come crawling back to the palace begging for help. But these are not predictions. They are emotional fantasies. Because if Harry succeeds financially, it shatters one of the monarchy's biggest myths, that royal power comes from the institution. Harry and Meghan living comfortably in Montecito, surrounded by security, luxury, peace, career, freedom, and global partnerships, is the palace's worst nightmare. It proves that a royal can leave the system and still have a successful, fulfilled life. And that reality completely undermines the monarchy's fear-based model of control. Let me be brutally honest for a moment. Half of the drama surrounding Harry and Meghan is nothing but a distraction machine purposely activated by the palace whenever things look messy inside. Whenever Prince Andrew resurfaces, whenever William is trending for the wrong reasons, whenever Kate disappears from public sight, whenever the finances get questioned, or whenever the monarchy faces pressure from Parliament, magically, almost poetically, a negative Meghan story pops out of nowhere. Meghan breathing incorrectly becomes breaking news. Meghan walking her dog becomes scandalous. Harry buying milk becomes suspicious. These stories aren't journalism. They're panic buttons. Harry and Meghan have become the royal family's emergency escape hatch, a giant look over there button, and the press hits it every time the palace needs to distract the public. Let's paint the picture that keeps the palace awake at night. The monarchy is not afraid of an irrelevant Harry at 50. They are terrified of the opposite. They fear a 50-year-old Harry who is wealthy, respected, emotionally stable, influential, globally admired, and completely independent from the royal system. They fear a Harry who becomes a leading philanthropist, best-selling author, speaker, mental health advocate, and cultural force. And Meghan? They fear a Meghan who becomes a global powerhouse, an entrepreneur, a style icon, a media mogul, and a woman whose influence crosses industries and continents. They fear the day when Archie and Lilibet grow up free, confident, well-educated, and unbothered by royal limitations. Because all of that proves a devastating truth. You don't need a throne to have purpose, and you don't need a crown to shape the world. If Harry had remained in the monarchy, the institution would have completely stripped him of who he was, emotionally, financially, mentally, and spiritually. He would have been permanently locked into the role of the spare, expected to exist only to elevate the heir. He would have been forced to smile while being sacrificed to the tabloids, expected to remain silent as the woman he loved was shredded day after day by a press machine working hand in hand with palace insiders. Leaving was not rebellion, it was survival. And now that he is thriving, happy, peaceful and free, the palace can't stand it. His joy exposes their dysfunction. His stability exposes their chaos. His independence exposes their cage. Here's the final twist in this royal saga, the part that the palace never anticipated. Every smear, every lie, every attack meant to destroy Harry and Meghan has only made them stronger. The monarchy threw everything at them: leaks, scandals, threats, expert panels, hit pieces, rumours, endless character assassinations. And instead of fading into obscurity, Harry and Meghan became global legends. They became the story the world never stops talking about. The palace accidentally created its own biggest competition. Two people living under California sunshine, raising two free children, building a legacy the palace cannot touch, influence, or rewrite. The monarchy fears Harry becoming irrelevant, but the truth is the exact opposite. Harry is becoming unstoppable.